And welcome to another episode of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Grant Chachere, bringing you all the latest news in regards to your North Carolina Tar Heels. And of course, I am also the lead beat writer for North Carolina Tar Heels on SI. Boys and girls, we have a huge game later tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, the game is going to be broadcast on ESPN. That game that I'm referring to is the UNC versus Kansas game between two top 25 programs. Of course, North Carolina is number 25. They're coming off of a 94-54 win over Central Arkansas, while Kansas is the number 19 team in the country, and they're coming off of a 94-51 win over Green Bay. And these, of course, are two blue blood programs. And interestingly enough, a lot of similarities between the two programs. I mean, first start off with Dean Smith. Dean Smith, of course, is from the state of Kansas. He played for Kansas, was part of a national championship team over there. And then also, of course, as we all know, became the head coach of UNC, North Carolina, and won two national championships. Really became the guy. It really is the godfather. You want to be honest with you, is really the godfather of modern day North Carolina basketball, and it's without a doubt. I mean, it's not even close. I mean, and I know Roy won three national championships, which is one more than Dean, but even Roy will tell you that he's the greatest coach in North Carolina history. I mean, that's just how it is, and rightfully so. I mean, he is what makes why North Carolina is great right now is a large part due to D. Smith. Of course, I know Frank McGuire won that championship at North Carolina before Dean, but Dean Smith is the godfather. He's the one that all those names you see in the rafters, most of those guys played under Dean. So there's that. But also, of course, speaking of Roy Williams, he also has a connection with Kansas, as he was the head coach at Kansas from 1988 from 1988 to 2002. Of course, Roy, went to North Carolina as a student, was a coach, assistant coach there, was Dean's right hand man before ultimately becoming the head coach of Kansas from 1988 to 2002, and then of course 1988 through to 2003. And then of course he became the head coach at North Carolina in 2003, and then down the line won three national championships with the Tar Heels. So a lot of shared history between. I mean, of course. Oh, also by the way, the first national championship North Carolina won, the team they beat was Kansas when they had Will Chamberlain. So a lot of shared history between the two schools. I think that's what makes this game so unique. Just two blue blood programs, both with a lot of history. Met each other in the Final Four multiple times. Met each other in the national championship multiple times. I mean, they've met each other in the national championship, I believe, twice. So very, very unique. Very, very unique rivalry, I guess you could say, because of the shared history between the programs, right? And it's not even just that. I mean, Larry Brown played. I mean, Larry Brown played for and coached under Dean Smith at UNC before he became the head coach at Kansas, where eventually he won a national championship, right? I mean, Brad Frederick, who's currently on the staff right now, his dad was the director of athletics at Kansas for 14 years, and he was the one that hired Roy Williams. I mean, multiple UNC assistants: Steve Robinson, Joe Holliday, Jared Haas, CB McGrath, Matt Doherty, and Jonas Sorotin were on the staff of both Carolina and Kansas, right? And Haas and McGrath both played for Williams at Kansas. So there's a lot of similarities. And also, I believe, if I remember correctly, Marcus Page's sister is also coaching at Kansas for the women's team, of course. So, I mean, there's a lot of commonalities between the two programs. I mean, there really is. So that's what makes this game so interesting, just because of the shared history between the two programs. So it's pretty cool to see. Um, so yeah, but anyway, let's go straight to the game because enough of the shared history. I think people are tired of that. First of all, Kansas led by Darren Peterson. I think we all know him by now. You know, number one recruit in the country is the consensus right now. Is the consensus number one, supposed to be the consensus number one player to be picked in next year's draft. I mean, a lot. I've seen ESPN, CBS, The Athletic. You go down the list. I haven't seen one list that doesn't, or mock draft that doesn't have Darren Peterson as uh, below number one. So he's number one pick, right? He scored 21 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, had 2 steals, and a block in their season opening win over Green Bay. He was also 7-11 from the field, 3 for 7 from beyond the arc, and 4 for 4 from the free throw line. And he also scored 26 points in their exhibition game against Louisville, where he went 9 for 15 from the field and 6 for 10 from beyond the arc. So he's a very efficient scorer. You also have Flory Budunga. Flory Budunga is a 6'10", 235-pound center. Last year as a reserve, of course he averaged six. He averaged about 6 points and 5 rebounds a game. But also he averaged 1.6 blocks per game, which was third in the Big 12 last year, and he hit 69.8% from the field last year, which are both Kansas freshman records. His last game, he had a team high 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 blocks. So, he's a very effective guy on the inside. Bryson Tiller, who is a guy you're going to see come off the bench a lot. He's basically their sixth man. He plays a lot of minutes for the Jayhawks. He's also averaged 9.5. So, between the exhibition game against Louisville and, of course, the season opener against Green Bay, Tiller's averaging 9.5 points per game with 9.5 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 blocks per game in 22 minutes average. He's also shot 8 for 13 from the field and made one of his 3 shots from beyond the arc. Like I said, expect him to play a lot of minutes against UNC as their team's six-man, or he could even start for them. And like North Carolina, they don't really have that much depth in their big men. But they make up for it because they have great size. These guys at Kansas are tall. If you start to go down the roster, right? So Flory Budunga, as I mentioned, 6'10", 235. And but then the shortest guy in the starting lineup is 6'4", which is Melvin Council, their point guard, right? And then Darren Peterson, 6'6". Cole Rosario is 6'6". Trey White, 6'7". So all four, besides Budunga, all those 4 guys I just mentioned, they're guards, but they're all tall. So that'll be a very interesting matchup with UNC's backcourt because, of course, Luka Bogovac is 6'6". I expect him to start in the game tonight. However, Kyan Evans is 6'2", and Steph Trimble 6'3". So there's going to be a height disadvantage there. That's something to watch out for, right? Also watch out for to see how Henry Vassar deals with Kansas bigs, right? Because we haven't seen Henry Vassar really tested yet. BYU is a big team, but they're not a very physical team. Kansas is a very physical team. Bill Self's teams have always been very physical, especially on the inside. They like to play tough. They're blue collar. So that would be something to watch out for as well. But also I want to mention this too, and I don't know why I didn't start this off at the beginning of the episode. This will be the first time North Carolina and Kansas have played each other in Chapel Hill. Despite the 13 meetings between the two schools, they're meeting each other in Chapel Hill for the first time. However, this isn't the first time they play each other in North Carolina. They played in Raleigh in 1959 and they also played in Charlotte in 1981, both of which the Tar Heels won. They also played twice in Lawrence, once in 1960, which they won 78-70, and then the other time was last year where they lost 92-89. The Jayhawks have also won the last 5 meetings between the two schools. The last time North Carolina beat Kansas, surprisingly, was when Matt Doherty was the head coach, and yeah, that was a really long time ago. And if you want to know how old I was when that happened, I was 3. They beat them in 2002. That was actually Doherty's last year. Let me double check that. Yeah, it was Doherty's last year, where UNC beat them 67-56 in New York. But the Tar Heels have not won since. The other 5 times happened mostly in the NCAA tournament, right? They lost in 07-08 in the Final Four in San Antonio. They lost in 2011-2012 in the Elite Eight in St. Louis, Missouri. And that's a year where a lot of Tar Heel fans thought that they could win the national championship. However, that was a year that Kendall Marshall, of course, was injured. He got injured, and a lot of people thought had had Kendall Marshall not been injured, they probably would have won the national championship, which, I mean, you could take it as you will, because that 2011-2012 Kentucky team was amazing, right, with Anthony Davis and all them. But that North Carolina team was really good as well, with Tyler Zeller and Harrison Barnes and, of course, Kendall Marshall. Really, really special team. The other time they lost against Kansas was in 2012-2013, which also was the NCAA tournament. They lost in the second round. And, of course, the other 2 times, as I mentioned, last year, where they lost in Lawrence 92-89. And, of course, the other time they lost in the 2022 national championship game in New Orleans, a game that North Carolina was leading by 15 points at halftime. But unfortunately, Kansas stormed back in the second half and won 72-69. So this game will be retribution for 2022. Who knows? But this is a must-win for North Carolina. They have to win this one to kind of gain confidence as they enter a tough non-conference schedule. Because here's the thing, you also have St. Bonaventure, who's a solid mid-major team. I think North Carolina's going to win that one. They should win that one. But still, St. Bonaventure's always got a sneaky team here and there. Michigan State is also a top 25 team. Both those games will be played in Fort Myers, in the Fort Myers tip-off. That's in Florida. They also have the ACC SEC Challenge, where they have to travel to Lexington to take on Kentucky, who is currently the number 9 team in the country. Then they welcome home Georgetown in Chapel Hill, and Georgetown looks like they could be better. They actually beat Kentucky in an exhibition game before the season started. And of course, your last test, or I guess you could say test, a tough non-conference opponent will be Ohio State, and that game will be played in Atlanta for the CBS Sports Classic. But you want to beat a team like Kansas to get the fans excited, to get everyone hyped up about basketball. Of course, everyone's hyped up in basketball about Chapel Hill. I mean, for crying out loud. But for this team, especially with all the doubt that's kind of around this team right now, if Huber could get it done, and is Caleb Wilson and all that, and yada yada yada, I mean, this is the perfect game to kind of erase all that, especially with a win over a program like Kansas, who also. Even I wouldn't say have a lot of doubt, but we also have a lot of hype around him with Darren Peterson, right? North Carolina's Caleb Wilson. So two programs kind of dealing with a similar situation. Kansas didn't have really that great of a season last year, so these are 2 very similar programs. Two programs that are dealing with similar situations and are wanting to get a big win early to kick off the 2025-2026 campaign. But anyway, that's going to wrap up today's episode of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Grant Chachere. bringing you all the latest news in regards to North Carolina athletics. And of course, I'm also the lead beat writer for North Carolina Tar Heels on SI. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.